Welcome to All New Look Back in Amber, from exclusive interviews to interesting inside insights. Since 2010, we've been the best place to be for all things audio for us, Newport County fans. Coming up in the next 45 minutes, I'm Lamsie and I've got all the big questions for our special guest. Luke's got your questions you kindly sent in on Facebook and Twitter, and a few naughty ones too. Never miss out. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you listen live at 3 p.m. on a Sunday and 7 p.m. on a Wednesday after almost all League 2 home matches and the odd special edition like today.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now. Newport City Radio.
We've got two guests for you, not just one. First of all, let's talk to Joe. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Good to be here.
Thank you for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it. Louis here as well. How you doing?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you.
Louis might talk or he might not talk. So there's no pressure. So if Louis wants to get involved, you can do. Joe, let's go back from the beginning. So my first question that I normally ask is, how did you find out about Newport County? How did you get involved? But our listeners asked a really, really good question, so I'm going to go for that instead. So Alison has asked, are you enjoying your time at Newport County, and is it the place for you?
Alison, I'm really enjoying my time here. It's been great. I mean, I've known the club for quite a few years, having managed against them, coached against them, and I actually gave him a loan player once, Alex Gilby, when you got promoted at Wembley many times a while ago. I've also worked with Tony Pulis, who obviously ex-Newport. So I knew about the club, and you kind of get the feeling from it from the outside, but it's not until you get inside you realise how hard you have to work and the standards that you want to keep, and how we've built up this league reputation from a non-league reputation, which is vital to uphold. And it's a great challenge for us, and I'm really enjoying it, yeah.
Brilliant. So how did you get involved with it?
I just been removed, if you like, from Colchester. I was kind of waiting. Unfortunately, they sacked the then manager after only a few games, and we'd helped keep them up the year before. And what happened was I had to wait 3 to 4 weeks, kind of put on leave, and it was like, are they going to keep me? Are they not going to keep me? So it was one of these things. I'm walking my German Shepherd in the park, not in the park, in the fields where I live, and he's having a good run off the lead. Next minute, my phone goes, and it's the gaffer. Graham, and he says, listen, Joe, I might have a chance with Newport County. Do you fancy getting down? And I'm like, yeah, no sweat, like no problem, I'll be on the next. And I was in the car straight away, came straight down, straight to the training ground, and familiar faces who were enemies, if you like, when I was at Cambridge and Colchester. And great to come down. And then it's a long drive, but it's yeah, it was great. It was great to turn up, and the opportunity was. I'm blessed to be given the opportunity by Graham.
So where were you living?
I'm based in Colchester, so I live there. The family are still there, and the dog. And these things happen. You just have to. Sometimes you got to go where you got to go, and I've done it 2 or 3 times with Graham. So within our industry, we sometimes have to make sacrifices, but this is one well worth making.
It's the little detail that matters in these sort of podcasts, and everybody will be screaming at me now if I don't ask this question. What's the dog's name?
Logan.
There you go. Good. That's a good, solid name.
Yeah, we're big Marvel fans in our house.
And,
right.
So you know, and we he's called after obviously Wolverine, and DC fans as well. So we have a bit of a split house, and we like all that kind of thing. So he's called after Wolverine.
What breed is he?
He's a German Shepherd. He's a long-haired silver. He's a long-haired silver sable. So he doesn't half shed his hair, like, by the way. Well, I wish I could have grabbed some of that for myself, but
yeah, there's been a lot of similarities between me and Joe today. Apart from that, he's infinitely more sporty than I am. Louis, you got any dogs in the family?
I do. I've got a black lab, and I've also got a dachshund, Flora and Teddy.
Yeah. Got to give them a name check as well. Luke, what have you got for Joe? What's your first question? I believe you two might have met before.
Yeah,
once or twice, yeah.
Just clarifying.
Yeah.
You obviously talked about like Graham calling you up to come here. How did you first meet Graham? You've been with him at a few clubs, Mansfield, Bristol Rovers. Were you with him at Bristol Rovers?
Yeah, so I came down and helped. I did 6 months voluntarily with him at Bristol Rovers when I'd lost my position at Cambridge, and we just got to work with each other really well. But we've known each other for quite a few years since we were young. We both played for the same schoolboy club. And he's a little bit younger than me, and we kind of knew each other. When you come from Ireland, you tend to keep up with other people's where they are, who they're playing for. And Graham had a successful career with Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday, and you get to know how well Irish players are doing. And we just kept in touch, and then obviously our close relationship what do you say, Colchester and Southend are not the friendly rivals, like in inverted commas, in the Essex. But we knew each other, see each other a lot of games, and Graham needed a hand when he took over at Bristol Rovers, and I came down and helped him there, and then we moved to Mansfield, and then obviously we're here.
Yeah, Newport County, especially recently, we've had a lot of the luck of the Irish, I'd say. People like Mark O'Brien, Porry Gamond. Are you looking to add you're in the Graham's Irish legacy?
Listen, I'm going to really burst the bubble here. I'm not a great believer in luck. You know what I mean? I think a lot of stuff is hard earned, and what this club has is had like Paul Jagorman. I mean, you know, give him a chance. He scores, doesn't he? He was fantastic up front with Jamal Matt, and obviously Mark O'Brien. The long-bearded Mark O'Brien, when I knew him, was a player like the Grizzly Adams type, not like nice and shaved and all kind of prim now, but always produced one or two really good young Irish, but Irish players that have had a real impact for the club. And look, where anywhere everyone else comes from, it's great to represent Newport.
It's great with Mark. He was our first ever guest on the special editions. He was kind of our test guest, and he was just fantastic, wasn't he?
He was.
And that whole sort of like Great Escape history and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never heard the end of that, by the way.
I bet you haven't.
Every day it's like, are you the Mark O'Brien? Are you the Mark O'Brien, the special Mark O'Brien? Are you the one that... And there was another goal in that game, wasn't there, I believe?
There was.
But I mean, we had Mickey in the studio, a bit like you guys had there, and Mickey's put that right as well. We gave Mickey the opportunity to go from there. So, again, the relationship with Graham, which is what brought you to Newport County.
As we progressed from players to coaches, to both having managed now. So we kept that relationship even when there was a gap between obviously working together. Look, it's just something that's when you have a manager and an assistant manager, you kind of bounce things off and you work in different ways.
So walk me through that, because that is...
Yeah,
he's great at this, isn't he, Louis? He's got the next question already, which is, what is the working relationship? How does it come down? How does it drill down at Newport County? Who does what?
I started my coaching career when I was in 2003, when I just retired, so I've been doing it quite a while now. I love the grass. We call it the grass, to be able to coach and work with players. Graham is very much hands-on as well. But as I've got older, in my wiser years, I've kind of stepped back a bit, and I'm able to supplement Graham when, you know, tactically and working with the analysis and working with different people in and around it, just to try and take, having known what it's like to be a manager, take a bit of the all-round stuff away a bit from him and allow the manager to focus on his tactics and on his coaching. And then when I need to filter out and take to the manager, listen, this is important, we need to work with this, or something I can deal with myself. We have that kind of relationship where trust is huge. So he's very good hands-on with the players, with the coaching, and I kind of work with the analysis, with the tactical element, and feeding that back to Graham to say, look, we can look at this in training today, maybe have a little look at this. But in general terms, you know, picking the team, and we kind of interlink with that. So, and that's just not us two, that's the whole staff.
I guess you've got that relationship with Graham where you kind of can go into him with honesty both ways. So this is what I'm seeing, this is what I can implement.
Yeah, look, the key thing is, I was going to use the word bull there, but the one thing you don't want to, certainly not a yes man. You don't want that. You need to be able to say, look, I'm not sure about this, or we constantly talk, and we're constantly, let's go for this. Let's look at this. This is a good way of doing it. But we have to give an opinion. And then at the end of the day, the manager picks the team, and the manager will deal with the tactics. But it's making sure we give them as much information as we can as a staff to allow them to do that.
Yeah, well, one thing that we've picked up on in recent episodes of Look Back in Amber is me. I've had a thought. My view on it is that we seem to be more tactically assured than we have done in many, many years. Are you getting that feedback from any other place apart from what you've just heard me say?
Under Flinney, and initially James, of course, you have to respect everybody. There was a way of playing under Flinney which brought, some success to the club, and then obviously James had his way of playing, which initially brought some success to the club. And it's just getting the right blend of what's needed. Let's get it right. We're not like bill for something in the future. We were brought in to maintain a League Two survival, so that takes simplicity, if you like, to pick a system, to pick a way of playing, to give the information to the players. That's easy. Sometimes it's not so easy. So it's making sure that when we educate the players on the way we want to play, it's to get results.
got lots of questions coming up around kind of what you found when you first got to Newport County. So we're going to kind of hold that little bit there for a second. Luke, I believe that you wanted to ask Joe about the day-to-day responsibilities.
Yeah, so day-to-day at Newport County, what does your day typically look like?
I wake up really early in the morning. I'm a really early in the morning person.
Give me a time.
5 a.m.
Yeah.
I wake up at 5
a.m.
Learn
from this, Luke. You've got to learn from this. This is how successful people rock their worlds. They get up at 5 a.m, have a cold shower.
No, I don't got that. No chance.
And then,
I wake up at 5 a.m. I didn't say I get out of bed at 5 a.m, but I wake up at 5 a.m. But I'm up early and I like my coffee in the morning. So and then the day opens up for me. We travel. We might stay together once or twice, and we travel together. We come in. We get in early in the morning. We get in. We leave. Like to get in about 8 a.m. Into the office, and we would have already had a structure or a plan about what we wanted to do the day before. 8 a.m. into the office, 8:30 meeting in the morning, staff, and then we'll look at, because the one thing in football, and everybody will tell you this, something will crop up. So I remember once driving from my home when I lived in Suffolk at the time to Cambridge when I was Cambridge manager, and I think I had 6 issues by the time I did an hour to the training ground, and they just crop up all the time, and you have to be ready to deal with it. So the key thing is planning, knowing what you're going to do in the day. But then the physio will come and go, so-and-so might not train. And it's like, okay, but we have a rough structure about what we want. 8:30 meeting, we will train depending on timings of when we play. 10 a.m, 10:30 a.m, and then we'll finish off 12:15 a.m. Players will go in the gym. Graham loves his boxing. I loves his boxing, by the way. If you ever get him on here, he loves his boxing. He'll put the boxing gloves on as well.
Wow.
And they hit the pads. The players, we get them in there. We have pads. We have thingy. We really work them in the gym. And then it depends on what day it is. We may do some tactical team analysis, individual analysis, to make sure we can get the best out of them. And then we'll have a debrief as staff maybe later on in the day. And then when other people go, Graham and I might sit back and just review it and look to going forward. And then we might, as I said, we might watch another game or just bits and pieces going into the weekend that the analyst would have, Connor would have prepared for us. And then we're always on the phone. So a day doesn't really switch off unless Man United's on the telly and he wants to watch them, and then his phone goes off. So it's a busy day.
How much detail do you look at on the next opposing team?
How long have you got? I love the detail of the game. I've started to, over the last few years, really focus more on that. I love the tactical element of the game. Connor works extremely hard. He watches quite a few games, so our analysts will watch the initial games. We will have access to other data and game streaming that we can look at and try and find trends to how another team will play. So, for example, 5-game look at how the type of goals they score, the type of goal, the chances they concede. How can we beat them? And basically, it's all about how can we impose our game on the opposition, and we try and give that to players detailed probably on a Friday. So it takes a whole condensed. I mean, it's strange really, because we were talking about this the other day. It's about a 5-minute video, right? Key points, bang, 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 bang. But it takes a week of viewing, and it's 5 times 90 minutes. I mean, I'm not great at maths. What's that, 450 or something like that, maybe? Yeah, and all condensed into that. And poor Connor has to, he'll sit with me, Connor, and he'll go, I've got this, Joe. And I go, nah. And I'm looking at him, and go, oh no, how do we? And we just got to pick out the right bits. So there's quite a bit of detail goes into it, because you got to try and find the edge.
Do you focus on your team and the opposing team in terms of percentages?
Yeah,
is it
sometimes it's sometimes it can work. It depends on, you don't want to show 80% of what the opposition are brilliant at and 20% of how we can beat them. You want to try and get the balance right, and that will depend on sometimes if a team is really elaborate, may just need a little bit more detail. So, but generally we try to focus on what we're good at, try to keep the players focused on what we're good at, what we do well, enhance the positives really.
Talk to me, when did you first understand about a thing called football?
I was growing up in Dublin. I lived in a 2 up, 2 down terraced houses. You know, Coronation Street, them kind of houses that are all interlinked. And I lived in a place called Inchicore. It was years and years ago. It was where the trains, the CIE, the Coruscant Air, it's called, and they would build and engineer the train tracks, and we'd have trains out the back of where we used to live. And we had between the estate, we had a patch of green grass, and it's called the Green. My father was a keen footballer. He had success as a manager and a coach with Inchicore Athletic. We kind of won the equivalent of the FA Trophy in Ireland, Irish terms, like it was the FAI Junior Cup against Cherry Orchard in 1977-78. There's a picture of it with me I think it was about 4, one of the ball boys. We just love football, and it was Leeds, Manchester United, or Liverpool. And I used to come over with my father. Ironically, it's his anniversary today. He passed away 36 years ago, and we used to come over on the boat to watch Liverpool. So I grew up a Liverpool fan, and in the street there'll be Man United fans, and we'd all meet on the Green as young lads wearing their kits, like that your mum might have sewn the badge on, and you think you're back then Terry McDermott or something like that.
Before Luke's days.
And
very quickly, Stephen's going to be gutted. He's gutted he's not here today.
I've got some
he's going to be gutted because he's in Liverpool.
Yeah.
That's his second team.
It's just a love of football, and the Green loved football. But look, my estate, we had Eamon Collins, who was a very good player. Played in England for years. David Collins, who is the father of Collins, who plays now in the Premier League and plays for the Republic of Ireland. And we had Paul Bourne, who played for Celtic. We had a lot of people from the area be good athletes and go on and do some good stuff. And my love of football was built on the Green. And then they tarmacked it over into concrete, right? So now we're sliding tackling. We were slide tackling on concrete, and it was like, and then this evolved into this wonderful thing about it was called the Green Five-a-sides. And that was I got picked up at 10 years old, 11 years old playing. I always wanted to play for St. Patrick's. St. Patrick's Athletic in Inchicore, like my favourite. Like I used to jump over the wall, and Paul McGrath, the famous Paul McGrath. I hope you know Paul McGrath. If you don't, do your homework on him. One of the best defenders the world has ever seen. Played for St. Pat's, and it was a scammer to get to watch him. Like we got to get in to see Paul. And I got picked up by a club called Cherry Orchard, and then I just took off, and then I moved to England. I came to England when I was 15, and that's a story maybe one day I can tell you. If you've got time today, I'll tell you about the story.
That's actually one of our questions.
Is it? Well,
yeah.
We'll
it's our next question, actually.
Is it?
He's good at this.
Do you want to ask the question, and then I'll lead into it?
To be fair, it's one of Stephen's, because you've got a Connor, we've got a Stephen. Stephen does all the deep analysis on it, so we never know whether it's right or not until we actually get the guest in the studio. So from Stephen, you left Dublin at 15, determined to have a career in football. Please tell us about that. Didn't need the question. Carry on, Joe.
How about this, right? So all you older listeners out there was a programme when we were growing up and I was young called Mr. Ben, right? And Mr. Ben used to wear a top hat, right? And he'd turn up and just appear, and this guy would go in and get changed, and if he dressed into a certain type of clothes, he went back in time and became and then Mr. Ben would turn up and take him back, right? People probably think I'm mad, by the way. There was a scout, looked like Mr. Ben, right? He wore a top hat, 3-piece suit, dressed like immaculate, and his name was George Richardson. Now George Richardson was the father of Damien Richardson, who was then the youth team coach at Gillingham. And Damien had a good career in England and played for the Republic of Ireland, I think, about 3 times. And Damien was ended up being a brilliant mentor for me. And look, God knows where I'd be if it wasn't for Damien. But I got picked up having probably one of the worst games I've ever seen. And this guy, there was a tree. We used to play at Lafonu Park, the Lawns it was called. And there was a tree behind one of the goals. If you can just picture a head coming around the side of the tree with a top hat on. And it's like, what's this geezer doing, like, you know what I mean? And then he approached me and I'm like, what's going on? He said, I think you've done really well, son. I think you've done really well. You need to go to England. We've got a team, Gillingham. I went, who? It was like, Gillingham was Division 4 at the time. There actually was a Division 4 out there at one stage. And he said, yeah,
Luke, there was a rebrand.
Yeah, there was a rebrand. Yeah, we got promoted. But he sent me anyway. Long story short, on George, Lord rest his soul, I came across, so what? He says, right, here's an open ticket, right? And I'm like, well, how long am I going for? And he's like, well, as long as it takes for you to sign. And I'm like, what do you mean? Am I signing? He says, no, you've got to go over there. And if you're over there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, at the end of it, you better come back. And I'm like, okay, all right, so I'll go. Now, this is the best bit, right? And this is my first taste of England. as a young man, right? I'm 15 years old, right? You wouldn't get away with it now. No chance. So I'm 15. I'm going to England because I need to get out of Ireland, right? My father passed away 2 years before, and I just thought, I want to play. And I see all my mates going. They were going to Oxford. They were going to Liverpool, Tottenham, this and the other. And I'm like, I'm a decent player, you know. I want to get away, like. And then my good friend Stephen O'Brien, who was the catalyst to get me to Gillingham, really. He was the goalkeeper in the youth team. In Ireland, right, Irish mums, right, dress you up for Christmas. They dress you up for Christmas. So my mum buys me a Miami Vice suit, right, for Christmas.
Yes.
Right, now picture it, grey, pinstriped, right? I've got a white shirt on and a tie and a pair of blue loafers. Now what I look like, God only knows when you're getting on the plane. Anyway, I'm sitting on the plane because my ma saying, you need to go and you need to look well. I'm on the plane. I'm sitting next to an American guy who's got a top hat on. This is a true story. He's got a top hat on and he's loud, right? And he's taken up 2 seats, if you know what I mean. So I'm on the inside seat by the window. And we're not far from landing in Gatwick. I had to fly to Gatwick. And I've got an orange juice, and I'm obviously a bit nervous. And I've told him, I'm going to be a soccer player, and I'm going to have a go at it. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing, and this is brilliant. And he's throwing his arms around. He's knocked the orange juice all over my trousers. So it looks like I've weighed myself, right, as we're coming into land. It's because I want to get up and get some tissue on it and all that, and I can't. You can't. Your seatbelt's on. You got to sit down, sir. So I've landed in Gatwick, and I've got what looks like a wee stain. I don't know if I can say the P word, but it looks like I've got a big wee stain on my grey trousers in my pinstripe. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, 2 hours it took, right? But it's now stained into it properly. The guy is looking for a Josephine Dunne, right? Malcolm Machin, who was one of the under 16 managers at the time. He drove up in his Vauxhall Cavalier, right? And he's a chain smoker, right? He's looking for a Josephine Dunne. Is there a Let's come on, Josephine Dunne. Can please go to thingy? There's a Josephine Dunne. And I'm like, no, my name's Joe Dunne. I'm now getting a little bit worried because I'm sitting at the airport 2 hours. I'm sitting here. And he picks me up anyway. So he finds me and we go to the car. By the time I get from Gatwick to Gillingham, he must have had a pack of fags. 20 fags, like in, out, puff, 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 and he's talking to me. So when I got out of the car and walked down the steps into the club, right? And by the way, all the youth team lads who I've got to play with, and anyone who'll know who walk into like a football industry, I stink of fags, right? And it looks like I've pissed myself, right? And the first thing I see is the manager. And who's the manager of the club at the time? It's the famous Keith Birkinshaw. And he's looked at me and goes, what have you turned up at, son? He smelled me. You smoke? You smoker? And I went, no. And I'm like, and all the lads are like laughing their heads off in the thing. And I've taken 2 steps down the stairs, and it's like, oh my God, I could be in a bit of trouble here. Do you know what I mean? And first thing Damien did when he came and see me, he just laughed at me, and he got one of the youth team lads to give me a broom, right? Because you had to clean the changing rooms, like. And he said, yeah, dig in with the lads, dig in straight away, Joe. Go on, they love you for it. So I'm in a grey suit, tie, white shirt, pea stain on what looks like a pea stain, but it's an orange juice stain on my trousers, and stinking a fag, sweeping the changing room in the first 10 minutes of entering my first professional football club in England. And then it was just like, oh my God, what happens next? You know? And 2 weeks later, there's another story for that 2 weeks later, by the way, when I went to sign my contract. Because I signed my contract without telling me mum.
Yeah, we got that.
Have you got that bit?
Yeah, Stephen's done his homework really well here. Yeah.
I'll give you the story about when I went in to see Keeper. I've had my 2 week trial, right? And we're training. I'm training with the under 16s. I think they were on holidays, wherever. And I went to England and I had no boots. I forgot my boots. I forgot to take my football boots with me. So I stole a pair of one of the senior youth team lads' boots. And he was looking for them everywhere. And what I did, don't tell anyone this, I'm on the radio. I blacked out. I polished out the stripes on it so it looked like a black pair of boots, like. And then it came off in the wet. So I had to paint. I had to get black paint and paint it out. So because I needed boots, but he had about 3 or 4 pairs, right? He was one of the rich youth team players, I think, that was in the team at the time. Anyway, did enough to give myself a chance. So myself and Stephen, everyone had left the club, right? And Damien said, right, Joe, you're going in to see Keith Birkinshaw won the UEFA Cup with Tottenham. Famous manager. He says, right, I've got you a meeting with Mr. Birkinshaw. He said, get in the shower. Everyone's gone. We'll get up. We'll get your contract sorted and you'll be all right. So I said, "Oh, bro, this is great." And Stephen O'Brien, who was obviously a little bit older than me, and Stephen was obviously looking after me. He said, "Oh, fair play, Joe." He said, "Come on, we'll hit the showers." So I'm in. We're just figure out get ready in the shower, and we're doing stupid. He's volleying soap to each other, right? We're actually volleying soap. Maybe that's why my touch was so bad. But we're volleying soap to each other, and I volleyed it out of the shower into Stephen, who's in the change room. Stephen catches it. He's a goalkeeper. Right? So Stephen catches it and I went, "Oh yeah, good job you caught it." So he throws it back at me, right? And I've jumped up to avoid it. I've hit my head on the ceiling. I've got a 1-inch cut in my head. Absolute spurting blood, right? Out like a horror movie. And it's running down my... And Stephen's going, "Oh my God." You know? Damien's come down. He's gone, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, sorry, Damien. It's an accident. I hit the low ceiling on the..." He says, "You got to go see the manager and sign a contract. How are we going to stop that? I can't stitch it." He said, "Stephen, go to the office and get some glue." So he sends Stephen to the office, right? And it's like super glue. So Damien, like, I wiped it, and I've got super glue. But bearing in mind, I've got long hair at the time. He said, "I want some super glue, super glue." So we put a bit of glue on it, and I've damped my hair down. So we walk down to the office, and I'm really nervous now, right? I'm 15. I'm going into an office, and I don't know whether I'm... He said, "No, you're going to be all right." So Damien says, "Look, I'm going to stand to your right, right? And every time he says something, I'm going to repeat, like, make sure you look to your right," because my cut was on the right-hand side. And so I've had to position myself where Mr. Birkinshaw, I'm looking at him, and Damien's to my right. So I keep turning to my right because Damien keeps speaking to me. So what he wants to do, he wants to distract Keith from this, like, it started to bleed. And it's bleeding and it's dripping down my face. And he's like... And Damien's like, "Isn't that right, Joe? You've done brilliant." Yeah, that's right, Damien. Yeah, I think I've done really well. And Keith's like, "Well, what do you want to be when you, what's your ambition and all this and what's this?" And he's talking to me, and I'm like, this man is super respectful, and he had an aura about him. And I'm like, "Can we get to the point where you say, like, yeah, we're going to keep you?" And Damien keeps distracting Mr. Birkinshaw because there's blood now, like, coming down on my, and I was wearing, I think I had a Celtic shirt on, right, but I had the yellow one on, right. So it's like dripping into it. I'm like, "Damien, you need to save me here. Like, you need to save me here." And Damien goes, "Yeah, Joe, this is your contract." And he started reeling off this contract, right? That went on forever because he wanted to try and turn me away from Mr. Birkinshaw. And in the end, Mr. Birkinshaw said, "Do you know what? I think we're done here. I wish you all the best, and I hope everything works out." And Damien took me outside, right? And he was laughing his head. We were laughing about it, and he said, "You've just got a 2-year contract, a 1-year apprenticeship, a 1-year professional." He said, "I've got you a signing on fee that I'm going to take off you and put into a bank account for your mum. All this while you were trickling blood." You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what is so surreal? What is happening here? Like, I've just signed for, without telling me mum. So now I'm walked down to the thingy. Stephen goes, "Are you in?" I said, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm sorted." He said, "Great. You told your mum?" I said, "No, because there was no mobile phones back then. So you had to use a thingy phone. And they wouldn't let me use it." "Well, you're not going in there." "Why not? You're not phoning Ireland. You can't phone Ireland here. It's too expensive and all that." My mum never found out until I actually landed. And Damien came with me. Because, by the way, by that time, I had stitches in my head. And my ma, like every Irish mum, made a load of sandwiches for Damien. "Oh, come in, Damien. How this thing?" And 3 weeks later, I was gone. My mum's still there, still same house and all that, but I made the decision for myself at 15 with the help of Damien, obviously, and I had to go back and sign the contract. But the ironic thing was, when I went up to play for Cherry Orchard on the Sunday, I think it was, of going back, he dropped me. He dropped me because I didn't tell him, the manager at the time, Mr. Paddy Murray, again, Lord rest his soul, it was good for me, but he left me out. And the Irish under 16 manager had come to watch me. So because I had not told him, he put me on a half time. I think I scored 3 goals, but the Irish manager had left. So I'm kind of, for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think it was, I was just like, "Oh, what have I done?"
I could ask, because you've mentioned about your mum. That name makes sense, because I'm trying to work out, how can you not tell your mum? But obviously, yeah, technology was different. Then I get it, absolutely. Do you ever have that conversation with him just to say, "When I saw the contract, I need to let you know that I was in a bit of a mess that day"? Did you?
No.
Did you ever have?
No,
I didn't. Have that conversation.
I never. No, I was 15. He was just a super successful what's he doing at Gillingham anyway? You know, but it's some really good players. Like, but it was a different league back then, and I think Mr. Borkinshaw was he was doing another job at that time, and he left at the end of the season, ironically. And then Damien ended up becoming the senior manager, and I made my debut for Damien, and because I was a forward when I came to England, I was a wide player. I was only 10.5 stone. How about this, right? My diet, you talk about sports science and diets and carbohydrates and this, that, and that. I'm starting to get on a bit here. Shut me up in a second, right? So this is making right. I'm 17, right? I've just broke into the first team, right? Probably even 16 at the time. Was I 17? No, just turning 17 anyway. I think I was, whatever it was. My diet to get me up and running and up to speed, I might have even been turning 18. I was in the team, Division 4, was not all these drinks you get now and protein tablets and supplements and this, that and the other and tofu and wherever else you want. My diet was Fray Benton's pie, right? And anyone who knows Fray Benton's, right, it's got 6 layers of fat on top of it, right, with some kind of meat underneath it, right, that you took the top off. That was one. Beans, mashed potato, chips if I could, as much chips as I could, and Guinness. And that was my build-up diet. It was Guinness and chips for a good while. And years later, I got up to a good, solid shape to be able to deal with the hits in lower league. And then Tony Pulis in 2000, and I think it was 5, came in. And I went from 12 stone 2 pure muscle. And anyone who knows Tony, like, you got to work hard. 11 stone 5 when I left. I was like a skinny rake again. And I had to go back on the Guinness, of course. That was my excuse to kind of get myself back up to speed when I went to Colchester.
And if we haven't mentioned already, Luke, because Luke's now turned 18, so we can have these conversations with him. Right. Guinness in Ireland is proper. Guinness in Newport isn't. Just there's a massive difference between it. We want to spend a little time talking to you about your career, and we've only got about 45 minutes.
All right, okay.
So I'm going to park some of the career stuff for a little while, and hopefully we can come in and talk about it. So let's talk about management. So again, we've taken Alison's question and split into 3 because she was eager to ask you questions.
Okay.
And she put all in one, so I split it down into 3. So what led you into pursuing a career in management is from Alison.
I picked up my second ACL when I was about 28. Ironically, my last ever full 90 minutes was against Cardiff at Nen Park.
Sorry, did you mean just cruciate ligament? Yeah.
Yeah, second one. And I played my last full 90 minutes at Ninian Park against
Legendary Stadium.
Yeah, I scored the equaliser in the 92nd minute. It's not legendary when you've scored an equaliser at that place, by the way, in front of the away fans. It's not that legendary when you get the... Yeah, I always wanted... I always felt I could... I always felt I wanted to coach and help people. I always wanted to help people. I had really good teachers growing up who were superb for me, encouraging people, and I just liked to coach. I was coaching when I first came to England at 16 in a thing called Junior Gills. Damien was like, get out there, do something. Don't just sit in the house all day. And I did my badges when I was 17. My first ever badge when I was 17. I just wanted to help people. And when I couldn't play anymore, I just felt I want to help people. And Phil Parkinson, who's now the manager of Wrexham, and Peter Hurd, who was the chairman at the time at Colchester, they saw something in me that thought I could help. And I got into coaching. And when you get into coaching and you do coaching, you when the management thing came around, I did a caretaker quite a few times. When the management thing came around, this is probably leading on to Alison's answer. You've just got to know. You can't lie on your deathbed at the end of the day not having experienced and know what it's like. And I needed to know. And it's tough. It's hard, but it was a burning ambition of mine to make sure that in football I get every experience I possibly can, as a coach, as a manager, and that's why I went into it. I just felt, I had an itch that I needed to scratch, and management was seen to me to be able to be a real platform for me to help people, and I'd like to think I've done that at some of the clubs I've been at. And what I did grow to love was this part of the country. I love it. The opportunity of being there for a year. I love Bristol, and being here in the short period of time. I don't stay in Newport. I stay up up towards the mountains, and I love my walks. And it's just there's a lot of breathing space down this part of the country, and that's vital.
Okay, another list question before Luke comes back. This one from Simon Rock. What do you believe is the unexpected rise in belief in the players now that unfortunately they didn't have at the start of the season? So let me just add a little bit more context to this. We went to the Meet the Manager meeting, and Graham identified and must have spoken to you about it. They felt there were two things that he could immediately change when you both got to Newport County. That was the confidence, for whatever reason, and the fitness levels. So can we tie that together and add Simon's question, which is, the belief that...
Well, belief, of course, comes with confidence is a huge thing. You have to understand, in a team sport, when it's a team sport, you can't... You want to create a team environment where anyone can do anything with confidence. There's not a lot you can't achieve with confidence, and self-belief in yourself is one of the big things. When you lose confidence and you have no self-belief in yourself, and that's not just in sport, that's in everyday life, whether it's a different job or you just lose a bit of confidence in yourself, you don't feel good about yourself. And sometimes, and this is the game, and we've all experienced it, when things are not going well, it becomes tough, and tough for a manager in charge as well, because there's a confidence issue, and then you're trying to find that way of a solution to find that. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a change of manager to probably instill that. And it's just a freshness, a newness. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's just a newness of ideas. Somebody might need a different voice. Somebody might need that around them to be able to inspire them. And that would link into the fitness, because getting the fitness gives us a chance of lasting longer in games and being in games and staying in games and giving yourself the chance. And the key thing is that the longer we could be competitive in games, the players might start to believe, rather than losing a game quickly. If we can stay in the game, we can grow confidence in the longer we're in a game, the more we're the opportunity to win it, or certainly not lose it. And that's been proven by some of the draws we've come back from being behind. So making a team fit and making a team believe in themselves and see it. But if they can see it and feel it and experience it, i.e. the first win, I think, was against Colchester. It's a win. It's okay. And then we set our standards, and that's the key thing. We set our parameters, our standards. This is what we need to do. This is what we have to do. And needs buy-in. If you buy in, it works. If you don't get buy-in, it's another slog. And sometimes you're starting to see that now in the game. 2, 3, 4 managers sometimes a season. So unfortunately, when you inherit another job, unfortunately the manager before, it's mainly for the reason of it's not gone quite well. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to lift the players straight away, and anybody will tell you that. So how do you lift the players? Well, you've got to give them self-belief. You've got to give them simplify things and give them a way that will bring out the best in them. And encouragement is big on that. Every now and again you need to probably be a bit tougher, but encouragement to bring out the best in people.
That's a really good word that you used there, tougher. I'm going to try and explore that just a couple of seconds, because we had the pleasure of having James in the studio previously as well, and I think like everyone that was around James previously, we just loved him. We just thought he's just a really good guy, like you all are, trying to do a really good job under very, very difficult circumstances. Football is not an easy game when it comes to keeping fan expectations, isn't it? It feels that maybe that level of toughness might not have been there. Am I right with that?
I will never speak for another man's reign. James is an exceptional coach.
Yeah.
We came here with Colchester at the end of last season and won a game where I believe if they'd have beat us, they probably would have kicked back into a close position to the playoffs. I think we may have ended that hope.
Was that a Friday night game?
Yeah, it was. It was a good game. When we were on it, we were doing well at the time. Sometimes you look back and you look at the data where it was dropping off from a period, because for a long period, by the way, you were high in the league, really high in the league we were. Sometimes it's just football. And you know what? I've experienced that as a manager, and you might just be one small thing, two small things. You lose your best player, maybe an injury, maybe somebody, you risk something, and just doesn't quite come off, and it is a fine line. And the key thing about the game is there's not a lot of longevity in the game for coaches and managers. Like we see that on rapid changes constantly. So the group you get and the group you have, you need to move together fast, because there's no slow cooker here. The slow cooker in football is like, you want to build unless you've got the real backing. It's very difficult.
It seems that's really apparent in Premier League football, isn't it? Where, like clubs are going through 3 managers in the season, but they've got the consistency of playing staff. Where in League 2, you haven't got that. It can change very rapidly from one season to the next, can't it?
Yeah, for sure. Look at yesterday was when you look back at yesterday, there's some ironies in football. Wrexham won a lot of media coverage. We all know why. And they're in a super position in the league again with Phil, who was very good. Gave me my first, coaching job and worked with his staff at Colchester. But at the opposite end, we must never forget there are a lot of clubs struggling. Especially in the lower levels. Scunthorpe yesterday, who I managed against back in 2013. In 2011, they were in the Championship. We played against them, I think, 2011. They got relegated to the Conference North yesterday. We've got 2 or 3 other ex-league clubs that are in that position where they could drop out even out of the National League. So we must, and you look at the National League in itself, there's 14, 15 ex-professional clubs in there. So football is if there's an investment, if there's super investment, infrastructure is key. Yep. Infrastructure is key. And if you're constantly jumping between managers, and you have 10 managers in 10 years, or 11 managers and 13 managers in 13 years, or whatever, you'll find that unless you're super backed with like super amounts of money, that you can just do it. For example, Chelsea, Watford, wherever, and you get a little bit of success. But down around where we are, and so on, you got to get it right.
In terms of infrastructure for League 2, how does County compare in your opinion?
There's an infrastructure here that we feel can be massively improved on, especially for Newport itself, to be able to represent Newport itself. I mean, we have obviously the Dragons in a really good position in terms of their public, I would say, image, and what they bring to the county, and also Wales itself is vital. We must never forget we are Newport County representing Wales as well. You know what I mean? In the EFL. So we want to grow and try and make people understand that let's try and do something together. Our infrastructure, obviously, we'd like to improve on things like training facilities. Of course, I think is huge. Being able to develop things, develop younger players, but the setup is different in a way, and that's probably for other people to talk about, i.e. development players, i.e. academy, But we want to try and bring something to Newport that can sustain us as a club and help and link the community to us. I mean, I think Friday was nearly 5,000 at the game. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
Just over 4,000 county fans.
And yesterday at Stockport, this is going out whenever, Stockport County, we had about, I think it was 300, 400 fans. We went over and we clapped them, and it really hurt us, because it really hurt us. But the response we got was fabulous, because I think they understand the players are really trying to give it all. And once you get that as a club, I think that you can go places like, they want to see effort, commitment. They have the same principles, morals, and what we want to bring to the club, standards. Like, first of all, if you pull on a Newport, you got to work hard. You got to be able to run, compete, do all these things. And once we get all those things that we absolutely demand, then you can start to implement your tactical awareness and technical ability to be able to do things. So yeah, structurally, we'd like to improve.
There's 6 games left of the season. What are your expectations for the end of the season? Is it a case of making sure that Newport County are safe first before you start thinking ahead to next season? Or is there a bit of a balance there? Or what do you think for the end of the season?
I think balance is a really good word. You can only do so much with sometimes not knowing the full picture. You can plan, but of course we still have a job to do. What takes priority is winning games. That's vital. The gaffer has already gone public I think having spoke and laid plans to speak to people behind the scenes about where he wants to go and what he wants to do, and he spoke to some players, and a lot of the players have an idea about where they could possibly be moving forward within the group and the role they'll play. But that's natural at this time of the year, especially if you're coming out of contract as a player. You want to have those conversations. But the key thing is there is a little bit of a grey area, because obviously, of course, we need to secure what we were brought in for, and that was to secure our League 2 status. And then we can look at infrastructure, then we can look at things that are laid out in front of us to be able to say we can do this, and this. And we'll see where that is.
So you need to reevaluate the long-term plan, because when you come in and the gaffer came in, you had one set aim of making sure Newport County stay up. Now that you're all but safe, is it time to reevaluate what the long-term plan could be at Newport County, or do you still have that plan in mind and you're sticking to it?
I think what happens now in modern-day football clubs is long-term planning and structure will probably be done by people at board level, and how they would want to structure maybe a philosophy for how they want to bring the club forward and how it will link into the community. At our level, long-term planning needs strategy, and you don't very rarely, like I was saying, longevity. You rarely get that. So what you have to do is make sure that, for example, wherever we bring in, it needs to be ready to go into the first team really as best and as quick as possible, based on, let's get it right. There are some clubs that have huge budgets, good for them, and there are clubs that haven't got huge budgets. And then it's how you cut your cloth is vital. And that will be us cutting cloth and making sure that wherever we bring in helps the team.
And how important is it to end the season on a bit of a high?
Of course, our ambition is to win every game. Between now and the end of the season, we want to be super competitive. If performance levels are good, what we've seen in 26 games I think we've had, if our performance levels are good, we will come out of a game with something, whether that's a win or a draw. If our performance levels are low, it's a draw or a defeat. So we want to try and win as many games as we can. But at this stage of the season, there's sometimes some crazy results, eye openers, and teams will fade, teams will come good. So all you can do is make sure it's the next game. You hear this thing, the next game. But you know what? It's actually correct. It's like singular game. It's a single. The Easter weekend is always difficult when you got two games. You got very, very hard to turn it around. And look, we've had two really tough games. We've played two games against over Easter against a team who's second and a team who's third, and we have to try and maintain super high standards of performance that those two teams have been doing the whole season. And it's very hard to do that when you're in the position we're in, and taking some points from that weekend is a real positive. Between now and the end of the season, it's the next game, and the next game, of course, is Hartlepool. So our focus will be that. We'll deal with that, and then it's the next one. If we can get 6 wins, because I know the gaffer, he'll want to win 6 games, and that's our mentality, and we'll go for it and see where we get.
How did you get to that level of consistency for the teams that you just mentioned there? How does Newport County achieve that?
Well, of course, those teams that are at the top have probably had a consistent selection of players and a depth of players that give you that opportunity to be able to like-for-like changes. When we had the January window, we brought in Matt Baker, obviously Charlie McNeil and Callum Kavanagh. Now, these are young players, and you look at some of the other teams, they bring in experienced players who've got good League One experience, maybe some even Championship. And, we're really pleased with the impact that our young players have had. But at some stage, when you come up against the consistency of the teams at the top, you need to raise your game, and I think we've done that. I think we've done that, and certainly the games we've had, we've raised that consistency. However, and as the gaffer has probably alluded to in some press conferences, we are where we are for a reason, and it's that consistency that's probably let us down this season. And to get that, I think that goes back to structure, and that goes back to recruitment, to be able to get those levels of where those other teams are at. But it's difficult.
So can I assume that Newport County needs a really, really good transfer window coming up?
Well, everyone does. I mean, we want a successful window, wherever window we choose to go in. But again, we can only work in a window that allows us to be able to work that window. And don't forget, everyone else is looking for that player. Everyone else is looking for that player. And some clubs can get that player over the line easily. And some clubs can't. So we need to box clever. And we always try and do that. And one thing we believe we're good at, certainly, the gaffer is as well, is I think we can find one or two players that can help the team, and that's vital. And then it's making sure that if you run with a small squad, they stay fit. And that comes all to other things. That's like your backroom staff and da-da-da-da. So lots to do, and we just deal with every day as it comes.
We got a million questions left, and we've only got.
Okay.
We're well over time as well. So
sorry.
No, it's not you. It's us. We're just asking, piling the questions in. So let me just do a couple of quick ones for you, mainly off the listeners, just so we can tap that off a little bit. So before that one, can you experiment now? Is that a thing in football where you can? Do you have to wait until you're mathematically safe and then experiment, or can you not experiment at all? In a 90-minute game, competitive match.
No. You'd have to ask the manager, but my advice, no. I mean, you might make one or two changes, but experimentation, you just want to win. If we have a standard and a way of playing and we want to get what we want, we keep going at that and we drive it home, and we worry about that maybe pre-season. Okay.
Adam Walters is asking you to get a crystal ball, which you haven't got. Where do you think, or where would you like Newport County to be next season? I'm sure this could be an obvious answer, but probably a bit of thinking of why and how.
Look, the easy answer to that is a lot higher than what we are now, and in a position to be able to, knowing the gaffer as I do, he'll want to be competitive at the top end of the table. How we get there and how we do that, we'll find out over a period of time, and certainly better than what we're doing now.
Yeah, Alison has said, her third part of her question, what player or players have been a standout for you this season on the pitch? And Kyron asks, who's your player of the season and why?
Okay, so I'm going to, whenever this goes out and I go in the next day, oh my God, it's like, oh, you're his fan and da-da-da. But I'll answer the question. I'm not going to give you a diplomatic answer. I'm going to answer it. I think I really like what our wing-backs have done. I think Cameron Norman has been a real standout, and the reason why I say that is the respect he's getting off possibly other teams as well. So I think Cameron's done.
I think he's the most fouled player in the EFL this season, or he's the most fouled right back. He's the most fouled something. I'd seen a stat the other day.
He's the most fouled player. He is, yeah. I think he's done really well. Aaron Lewis has obviously been. He's developed really well under tuition, if you like. I was sad to lose Adam Lewis. I thought he was just creating and coming into play. Let me go through the team in my head, right? I thought Declan Drysdale and I think Cameron Norman just before Declan's injury, and by the way, brilliant to play 2 games today. We're really building up a really good partnership. I think the midfield guys have had a right good go. When you do what we've done since we've come in with some good performances, players stand out, players are stepping up. I'm gonna say I think Cameron's done exceptionally well this year. Omar's led the line, but we've had whoever I haven't mentioned. So sorry, guys. I'm sure you're gonna let me know on breakfast whenever the next time we have breakfast after this goes out. But hopefully that answers the question.
I really appreciate you giving an answer to that, because you're right. You could have said it's too difficult to say.
What's the point?
I love the honesty there, and again, it's just what you're experiencing. It's not singling out one player is better than the other. It's just kind of answer the question.
Yeah, well, he's
brilliant.
Look, he's a right wing back, and what do we ask our right wing backs to do? We ask them to do a certain job, and he's done it. He's got a couple of goals on the back of it as well. So hey ho,
Okay, so you can take it easy for a second, because the next one is kind of on us. So hold on in there. First of all, Louis, have you got any questions off the back of what you've heard today that you would like to ask Joe?
No, I don't.
There we go. We
haven't stopped talking, you have?
No, if Louis is happy as interim media manager, we're happy. We have no budget. We have very little money. Thank you for the bucket collection the other day. We don't know how much we've raised yet. We're going to find it in the next couple of hours. But thank you to County fans. Thank you to
Northampton.
And they were gross. They chucked a couple of quid in there as well. So we would love to give you a prize or a present, say a token of you being here. But we're cheap and we don't do that. So here we go. Question for you, which is hopefully something we can give to you. Do you know what song was number 1 on the day that you were born?
Do you know what?
Are you much of a music fan?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm a big.
What are you into?
How long have you got? I mean, I can stay here all day if you want.
We could have you all day.
Do you know what I mean? I like bands. I'm a big U2 fan, of course. I mean, I've seen them a few times. I love Marillion. I'm what's that word? Eclectic. I like. I can go from Hans Zimmer to Led Zeppelin. I can go from Black Sabbath down to who was I forgot his name now. Yeah, that's how good I am. But I've got a real wide. I just love music. What was the question?
No, that's fine. Stephen and Luke.
I'm thinking of.
They go to a lot of gigs for us because what people don't realise is Newport is brilliant for live music. Yeah. It's got this great history, but people don't realise it's really good right now as well. And Luke and Stephen are always out there watching bands, so they'll have to drag you along at some point.
Yeah.
But
Genesis was I like Genesis, like all those kind of rock bands, like stadium fillers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and all that. You know.
So the question was, what was number 1 on the day that you were born?
Yeah, I was trying to buy myself a bit of time.
Coming up to your 50th birthday as well.
Yeah, I know.
Don't
Thanks
look
for
a
that.
day over 25.
Yeah,
much like my good self, we're both 1973ers.
Are we?
Yeah.
The Mitchell brothers, right?
Yeah.
Me and you.
We need another one. We could be Right Said Fred. My mate Andy will love that reference. He keeps pulling that on us. And I keep saying, it's a dated reference. Stop using it.
I'm not so sexy. I don't know.
Yeah, what was number 1?
I don't know. Is it a disco hit?
No.
I don't know.
I can put it in your misery.
No, give us a clue. I like quizzes. Jim Holman.
Right. So they're probably more known for a massive Christmas song rather than the one that was number 1 on your birthday.
Boney M, is it?
Close, but go back a little bit. So that was late 70s. This is 73.
Is it a group of 2 men and 2 women?
Don't think so. No.
Put me on me as you go.
Wizard.
No, wouldn't have got it.
With See My Baby Jive.
Okay.
So we're going to have to get this because it's not on our system. Right. We do songs from 1990 to 2020, so it's not here. Joe, thank you so much. Happy birthday for the 25th of May.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming in for us. Louis, thanks for coming in as well. We've left, as we always do, we've left so much.
Yeah,
sorry.
No,
you're fine.
I mean, I'm happy to happy to go on, but listen, I know
no, you guys are the busy ones, so
I hope I answered their questions, by the way. I'm sorry if I didn't.
No, I think you're spot on with that one. Best of luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll catch you on the other side of it. We give rounds of applause these days, don't we? So please, Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Dunne, everybody.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.
Newport City Radio.